Shells have an interesting shape, and in Lightwave you can make light work of modeling a shell using the right tool, and the right tool in this case would be the seashell tool. So I thought we could go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to go ahead and close this down. And the first thing to know about the seashell tool is it's pretty much like a distant cousin of the lathe tool. So it works very similar to the lathe tool. So we need to start off with some kind of flat shape. I'm just going to use a disc. Okay, I'm just going to offset it from the origin. Okay, there we go. And I'll go ahead and turn on texture wires just so we can see the geometry. And I'm going to come over to multiply, extend, more, seashell, hit N for numeric. Okay, and we can already see a shell has been made, but we really need to adjust it. And this will also give us the opportunity to explore what the different settings are. Okay, so of course, just like with the lathe tool, you have the axis that you want to choose on, and the Y, we wanted to lathe around the Y, and because my face was running through the Z, it made sense to lathe around the Y. But you can choose the axis here. The number of loops, okay, if we increase this, well, we're not really going to see it if we increase it. You can kind of see it gets darker there. It's how many times do you want to loop around? Okay, now once we adjust some of the other settings, we might want to increase that, or we can change that. We can have it higher or lower. Okay, the sides per loop, well, that's how many sides. Think about the lathe tool, or when you create a disc or a sphere, how many sides do you want? How smooth do you want that? So we can increase the sides. The shift is really just another name for offset. Remember in the lathe tool, there's an offset from the start to the end of the lathe. Well, here it's shift. So we can use the shift setting to shift it away. Okay, so that it's not right on top of each other. If we lower that, everything is just right on top. We have one, it's just barely shifting, and it's not enough to get off of the geometry. So I'm going to raise that a little bit. The scale is kind of like taper. It's, do you want to scale? Do you want it to get smaller as it goes? And you know, when we were looking at that image of the shell, it kind of looked like that. But it depends on what you're going for. Okay, so I can start increasing the size, and it doesn't taper as much. So I am going to have it scale down. Okay, and of course, if we want to automatically create a UV map, I need to have a UV map uh, created already, and I need to have it active down in the vertex map area so that I can take advantage of making a UV map. Okay, so all we really need to know about this tool is that it's pretty much the lathe tool, but with the ability to scale uh, as it goes down. Where we can do offset in lathe, and we can change the number of sides. We can pretty much do everything that you see here. But what we can't do with the lathe tool is scale it so that as it loops around, it gets smaller. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and commit to this. Now the thing to try, let's go to texture mode so that we can see this, and just so that we can kind of get a better idea, I'm going to hit Q for surface, and I'm going to call this shell, give it some kind of shell color maybe, and a little bit of smoothing and spec. Okay, so there's our little seashell. Now, we used a circle for that. I'm just going to change up the shape a little bit. So I am going to start with the disk again. Except this time, let's go to modify, taper, in for numeric, and let's draw out our little fall off. And I'm just going to change this size up a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to stretch it just a little bit, something like this, more of a diamond shape. Okay. I still have the curve on there, but just kind of a diamond shape. Okay, and we'll use the seashell tool on that. So we'll go back over to multiply, extend, more, seashell, in for numeric. Okay, and right now it's right on top of itself, but if we shift it, Okay. Now we have a completely different shape. I'm going to scale it a little bit more and drop down the shift a little bit. Okay, maybe increase the number of loops, and we'll give it some more sides. Okay, so there you go. That's just a quick look at the seashell tool. It's another type of lathe tool. The key thing to remember is to play with the different flat polygons that you're going to lathe around, that you're going to use the seashell tool on, and you can get some really amazing results. And depending on the shape, you can get a whole range of results. So play with the different shapes. Give the seashell tool a go, and you can have a selection of shells.